Good evening. I'm Paul Lassico, and I'm the Executive Director of the TCC Roper Performing Arts Center. On behalf of Tidewater Community College and our president, Dr. Marcia Constant, welcome to Breaking Through, a showcase for actors, the capstone offering of our Arts and Humanities series, My Thoughts, My Voice, My Art. Tonight, you'll hear works spanning 5 centuries of dramatic literature, curated in the context of the series' themes of diversity, social justice, and empowerment during these times of social change. This program was created in collaboration with one of the Roper's favorite artistic partners, Theatre Ensemble, and their principals, Amel Ertuğrul and Edwin Castillo, are tonight's hosts. For those of you tuning in at a later time, this is being live streamed in April of 2021 during the global COVID-19 pandemic. Every precaution is being taken to ensure the safety of all involved. And our hosts, Amel and Edwin, are partners both in life and in art, so they're able to work together tonight without masks or distancing. And now, Breaking Through. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Breaking Through, a showcase for actors, presented by Tidewater Community College's Arts and Humanities Pathway. My name is Amel Ertuğrul.
And my name is Edwin Castillo, and we're with Theatre Ensemble. We are honored to be the Roper Performing Arts Center's partners in producing and directing tonight's event. Breaking Through is part of Tidewater Community College's series, My Thoughts, My Voice, My Art.
This college-wide free series of music, visual arts, literary, and theatrical programming was developed by the Arts and Humanities Pathway and explores themes of diversity, adversity, inequality, social justice, and empowerment.
Tonight, we will be presenting a series of monologues inspired by these themes from 5 actors: Laura Agadello, Trevion Porcher, Connor Norton, Beatty Barnes, and Anna Sosa.
Our first monologue tonight comes from the Academy Award-nominated screenplay, Adam's Rib. This 1949 film follows married lawyers who end up taking opposing sides in a husband-wife attempted murder trial. We pick up in the final moments when the defense delivers the final address to the jury. Here we have Adam's Rib by Ruth Gordon, the character Amanda Bonner, as played by Laura Agudelo.
And so the question is equality before the law, regardless of religion, color, wealth, or, as in this instance, sex. Law, like man, is composed of two parts. Just as man is body and soul, so is the law letter and spirit. The law states, "Thou shalt not kill," and yet men have killed and been held accountable and been set free. Self-defense, defense of home, of wife, of children, and home. If a thief breaks into your house and you shoot him, the law states that you will not be dealt harshly with, and so it should be. So here, you are asked to judge not whether or not these acts were committed, but to what extent they were justified. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I request that you join me in a revealing experiment. I ask you all to look at our defendant, Mrs. Attinger. Keep looking at her and keep watching. Listen carefully and look at her. Look at her hard. Now imagine her a man. Go on now, use your imaginations. Think of her as a man sitting there, accused of a like crime, a husband who is simply trying to protect his home. Yes, 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 hold it, hold that impression. And now look at Beryl Kagan. Look at her hard, a man, a third party, a slick homewrecker, a wolf. Oh, yes, yes, oh, you know the type. Hold on to that impression, and now look at Mr. Attinger, and suppose him a woman. Oh, give it a try, ah, yes. Yes, there she is, the guilty wife. Oh, look at her. Does she arouse your sympathy? All right, now you have it. Judge it so, for there is an unwritten law that backs a man who stands to protect his home. Apply this same law to this maltreated wife and neglected woman. We ask you no more. Equality. Deep in the heart of South America, there lies today a civilization far older than our own, a people known as the Loquinianos, descended from the Amazons. In this vast tribe, the members of the female sex rule and govern and systematically deny equal rights to the men who have grown weak and puny by years of subservience, too weak to revolt. And yet, how do we live in the shadow of a like injustice? Consider this unfortunate woman's act as though you yourselves had each committed it. Every living being is capable of attack if sufficiently provoked. Assault lies buried beneath each of us. It only requires circumstance to set it into violent motion. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you for a verdict of not guilty. There was no murder attempt here, only a pathetic attempt to save one's home. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Laura. That was beautiful. Now, I do have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
In regards to the themes that we had mentioned earlier, how did you find this particular monologue? Which one of those themes stuck out for you?
Actually, there were two themes that really stuck out to me. Of course, there is equality, and then there's empowerment. The screenplay was written in 1949, and it's really amazing to know Katharine Hepburn playing this female lawyer, and really fighting for the case of equal rights for women, and then of course there is that equality is just as important. That here in 1949 to 2021, you know, equality is still something that women fight for, be it in a workplace or, goodness, in their own home.
Now, even though this was written in the 50s, how do you feel the text applies to modern day?
Well, I have to say that the first line and the last paragraph really hit me. That idea of equality before the law. And then it stated that there's equality of color and religion and of wealth. And it was written in 1949, 1950s. But my goodness, this could be said today. This could be said in 2021. And it's the same at the end, you know, when it's mentioned that we all have this rage inside of us, that it just needs circumstance to turn it on. And though, you know, nowadays with the rage that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and all the things that we see on TV, you know, it's about, gosh, it's just about equality. It's about equality, to accept people for the skin that they are in and to get to know them. And instead of worrying about thinking that you know the answer by looking at the book cover, you don't. Know them, get to know them, and yeah.
No, that's right. Thank you. And we thank you for sharing your work with us tonight.
And
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. The film Adam's Rib has been preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Author Ruth Gordon went on to write other famous screenplays such as Rosemary's Baby and Harold and Maude.
Our next monologue comes from the Broadway show Working, a musical, which is based on Studs Terkel's book Working, People Talk About What They Do All Day and How They Feel About What They Do, which is a collection of interviews of working people from different regions and occupations in the U.S. Here is Working, a musical by Stephen Schwartz and Nina Faso, the character of Tom Patrick, played by Trevion Porcher.
You go in there, and it's dark. You got smoke pouring out of the whole damn building. It all happens so fast. I feel this tremendous heat to my left. I turn around, and the whole room is orange, yellow. You can see the orange. You can feel the heat. The lieutenant and the other two firemen, they got the ladder up there, and they saved 2 people. But downstairs, there was a guy trying to get out the door. The door was bolt shut. He was burned dead. And you know what the lead man said? He said, "Shit, we lost the guy. I can't believe it, we lost the guy." And I said, "You saved 2 people. How were you supposed to know there was a guy sleeping on the pool table?" And he said, "Yeah, but we lost the guy." I always wanted to be a fireman. A lot of guys want to be firemen. It's like kids. Everybody's still a kid inside. Guys 40 years old still feel like kids inside, except they're starting to lose their hair and they ain't screwing so much. I used to be a cop. Know why I switched to being a fireman? I liked people. And when I was a cop, I could feel the hate coming into me. I remember this one time, I was in the projects up on this roof, and there was this big black guy, about 6'7", at the top of the stairs. He had his back facing away from me. And I said, "Hey, fella, turn around." And he has elbows moving around his belt saying, "Yeah, wait a minute." And I said, "Hey, turn around a second." And it dawned on me. He had a gun stuck in his belt and he was trying to get it out. So I took out my gun and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot." And he threw his hands up against the wall. He had his junk hanging out and he was trying to zip up his fly. And there was this woman standing in the corner, which I couldn't see. So here's this guy getting a handy, and a lot of guys would have killed him. And I said, "Hey, I could have killed you." And his hands were shaking, and the gun in my hand was shaking, and I said, "Just get out of here." So I took the fire department test in '98 and got called up in '99. You know, this whole fucking country is so screwed up. This whole world is screwed up. But you see firemen, you actually see them produce. You actually see them put out fires. You see them come out of burning buildings with babies in their hands. You see them get mouth to mouth when a guy is dying. You can't get around that. That's real. You know, I worked at a bank once. It's just paper, counting numbers. It's not real. But I can look back and I can say, I helped save somebody. I helped put out fires. Somebody could be born. Somebody could grow old because of something I did. It shows something I did on this earth. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Trey. That was beautiful. And I'm going to ask you the same questions. What themes that were suggested did you find in this particular piece?
The theme that stuck with me most was equality, not just with this monologue, but with the musical working in its entirety. This musical has a bunch of monologues and songs that highlight essential workers. Even though it was written in 1974, these roles like the teacher or the delivery driver or the fireman or waitress, they're highlighted as important as they've always been, but I think when this pandemic hit, they were just now seen as important, like just as important as doctors or lawyers or anything that's seen as like top tier, and then like delivery drivers are down here, but this brings us on the same level, which I think is very important.
Right.
So as an actor, how did you approach this monologue as a black male in today's society?
So it was very interesting because this monologue is usually portrayed by a white male, and this character, Tom Patrick, he was a cop. So being a black male portraying a black cop about to shoot a black man who was unarmed says a lot, especially now in like how what's happening currently. So I had to really think about how does that affect my character about to shoot someone because he made a quick judgment, like he has his gun in his belt, he's about to shoot, when he really was not doing that. And so it made him have a whole career change because he wanted to help people still, but he couldn't do that as a policeman. And so he switched to being a firefighter. And I think that in itself speaks volumes.
It really does. Well, I thank you, Trey, and we thank you for sharing your work with us tonight.
Travion recently performed in a production of Working, presented by Old Dominion Theatre and Opera in collaboration with Warehouse of Theatre. In order to comply with COVID performance regulations, they creatively staged the play as an outdoor drive-in experience.
Our next monologue tonight is from the Broadway play, The Normal Heart. This autobiography by Larry Kramer focuses on the rise of the HIV/AIDS crisis in New York City in the early 1980s. We pick up the story where Ned, co-founder of the Gay Men's Health Crisis Organization, has just received notice of termination from his longtime friend. Here we have The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer, the character of Ned Weeks, as played by Connor Norton.
I belong to a culture that includes Henry James, Tchaikovsky, Cole Porter, Aristotle, Socrates, Alexander the Great, Tennessee Williams, Herman Melville, Christopher Marlowe, Byron, E.M. Forster, Lorca, Auden, Francis Bacon, James Baldwin, Harry Stack Sullivan, John Maynard Keynes, Dag Hammarskjöld. These are not invisible men. But poor Bruce, poor frightened Bruce. Once upon a time, you wanted to be a soldier. Did you know that a soldier, that an openly gay Englishman, was as responsible as any soldier for winning the Second World War? His name was Alan Turing, and he broke the Germans' Enigma code, which allowed the Allied forces to know exactly what the Nazis were going to do. And after that, he committed suicide. After being subjected to chemical castration and being so hounded for just being gay. Why don't they teach any of this in schools? Because maybe if they did, he wouldn't have committed suicide, and you wouldn't be so damn terrified of who you are. The only way we will ever have real pride as a community is when we demand recognition as a culture that is not just sexual. I mean, it is all there. All throughout history, we have been there, but we have to own it. We have to claim it, and we have to name them, and we have to articulate what is in our hearts and in our minds and own our creative contributions on this earth. And until we do that, until we organize by block, by street, by neighborhood, by city, by state, is one unified, visible community that fights back, we'll be doomed. And that's how I want to be defined as one of the soldiers who fought in the war. Christ, being defined by nothing but our cocks is literally killing us. Do we have to be reduced to nothing but our own murderers too? Why couldn't you and I, Bruce Niles and Ned Weeks, just work together to create a new definition of what it would mean to be gay? I blame myself as much as I blame you. Bruce, I know I can be an asshole, but please, I'm begging you, just don't shut me out.
Now, I know you and I had spoken before, and you had mentioned that your theme was social justice. Would you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, this piece, Larry Kramer's work and The Normal Heart, is such a beautiful outpouring cry to demand to be seen. And, you know, within the realm of social justice, there's something so beautiful and so powerful about a piece that screams out or that demands that level of recognition and vision and to be seen. And, you know, for a play that was done in 1985 and spoke out about these injustices for a community that by and large was seen as invisible because it just faded into the background of people's stories and of people's lives, it is such a powerful war cry of a piece. And I think a lot of queer literature and queer plays of that time really speak to that. And so that piece and that element of social justice really does drive my passion for work like this.
Many times in the fight for social justice, you meet people that have different tactics, but are all trying to achieve the same goal. How do you feel about that aspect in the play as well as life?
Yeah, I mean, for Bruce and Ned, who've both been very close friends, they both have very different tactics for how they address this issue. You know, for Bruce, it's very much make the issue palpable to other people. And for Ned, it is I demand recognition and to be seen for who I am and to not have to compromise that. And within our social justice fights from then all the way to now, I think we see that perfectly paralleled in this constant demand for meeting a little bit in the middle ground and being all the way to the extreme. And how do we recognize that both parties want to get us to the same victory or the same success, but how far to the extreme do we tolerate and how much to the middle do we go? I think that that's a fight and an element that is so well articulated in this play, but is a fight that we're going to continue to see within social justice for many, many years to come.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you, Connor, and we thank you for sharing your work. So The Normal Heart is considered a groundbreaking play chronicling the fight for gay health rights. Connor has previously directed a production of The Normal Heart, and he has also performed the role of Ned Weeks.
Our next monologue comes from William Shakespeare's Othello, Act 1, Scene 3. Othello fails to promote Iago, his longtime military comrade, to the rank of lieutenant, and instead makes him a lower-ranking advisor. Iago ultimately plots revenge. Here is Othello by William Shakespeare. The character of Iago is performed by B.D. Barnes.
I hate the Moor. And it is thought abroad that twixt my sheets he has done my office. I know not if it be true, but I, for mere suspicion of that kind, will do as if for surety. He holds me well. Better shall my purpose work on him. Cassio's a proper man. Let me see now. To get his place and to plume up my will in double knavery. How? How? Let me see now. To take his place and to plume up my will in double knavery. See, Cassio's a proper man. See, after some time, to abuse Othello's ear that he's too familiar with his wife. Cassio's a proper man and hath person and the Moor is of a free and open nature that thinks men honest that but seem to be so and will as tenderly be led by the nose as asses are. I have it. It is engendered. Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light.
Thank you so much, B.D. And of course, I'm going to ask you, what major themes did you find in this particular piece?
Wow, this is, what, Shakespeare, 1620, I think, when this was published?
Yeah.
still relevant today. What I love about the setup is you get to see an introduction of a friendship that turns into, Iago gets looked over for promotion, and the next thing you know, he gets a little jealous. And, in Shakespeare, when someone gets a little jealous or takes things a little into their own hands, someone's got to die.
Absolutely.
So typically this role is played by a white actor. So how does it change the text and character for you, speaking it as a black actor in the role?
That's an interesting question, because I had the chance to play Othello, and Iago being played majority by a white male, it kind of gives the audience a chance to not just see the friendship, at the beginning of the play, but being a black Iago and a black Othello, you get to actually see a brotherhood, possibly, or some sort of, because being Iago, you actually feel that there should be some sort of, what would be the word? There's some sort of, he has expectations, right? This is one that's like me. We're the same. I have expectations. And I think what it comes down to is prejudice can come in any way, any form. It takes a dialogue, takes a conversation.
That's right. I agree with you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Beatty, and we thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you.
In 2015, Core Theater had the pleasure of creating an adaptation of Othello right here on the Roper stage, and we had the privilege of having Beatty perform the role of Iago.
Our very last monologue tonight is from the play True West by Sam Shepard. A finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 1983, his play is all about sibling rivalry of two estranged brothers who have reconnected. Where we enter the play this evening, we find the siblings in their mother's living room. Lee is attempting to write a screenplay, and Austin is deliberately not making that easy. So here's True West by Sam Shepard. The character of Austin is played by Anna Sosa.
Red sails in the sunset, way out on the blue. Please carry my loved one home safely to me. Red sails in the sunset. I'm finally enjoying your company, Lee. For the first time since your arrival, I am finally enjoying your company. And now you want me to go outside and drink alone. You think you'll make more progress if you're alone? You might drive yourself crazy. You'd still have the coyotes to contend with, the crickets, the sounds of the police helicopters prowling above the neighborhood, slashing their searchlights down through the streets, hunting for the likes of you. Maybe I ought to go out and try my hand at your trade since you're doing so good at mine. Why not? You don't think I got what it takes to sneak into people's houses and steal their TVs? You don't think I got what it takes to sneak into somebody's house and steal a toaster? You really don't think I can steal a crummy toaster? How much you want to bet I can't steal a toaster? Go ahead. How much? You're a gambler, aren't you? How much are you willing to put on the line? Some part of your big advance. Oh, you don't have that yet, have you? I forgot. Well, how much are you gonna give me? I'm not talking about my house and my car. I'm talking about what are you gonna give me? You ain't got nothing to give. I'm not greedy. Any personal little treasure will suffice. So now you're gonna kick me out. Now I'm the intruder. I'm the one invading your precious privacy. Well, you got everything you need. Got plenty of coffee, groceries, you got a car, a contract.
I'll just leave you alone for a while. Don't worry about me. I'm not the one to worry about. I can take care of myself. Don't worry about me. I don't need any help. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna steal a toaster. I'm gonna steal some other stuff too. I might even commit bigger crimes, bigger than you ever dreamed of, crimes beyond the imagination. You don't need my help, right? You got a handle on the project. Besides, I'm looking forward to the smell of the night. The bushes, orange blossoms, dust in people's driveways, rainbird sprinklers, lights in people's houses. You're right about the lights, Lee. Everybody's living the life, indoors, safe. This is a paradise down here. You know that? We're living in a paradise.
Thank you, Anna. Now, we had a conversation before, and you had said your themes were adversity and empowerment. Would you elaborate on that for us?
Adversity in this piece, when I was a teenager and first read this script, was just about sibling rivalry. It speaks much more deeply to me now in terms of that aspect of family trauma and figuring out what pieces of family patterns lift you up and what pieces of family patterns or traumas break you apart and tear you down, and what even me or even my siblings have overcome to be in the place we are now. I think about all of that, my own ancestry.
Yeah. And I know that you had also mentioned that you had seen a production of this done at Steppenwolf, and I'd like to hear more about that too.
So 2 years ago, correct, I got to see this production at Steppenwolf with 2 Black actors. And it's so crazy how you sort of shield and deny yourself this feeling of why that makes a difference. And it totally does.
Right.
I was struck mostly by this idea currently, really, what's happening now even with the pandemic and with our country trying to confront how we need to handle social injustice. These brothers aren't confronting their privilege, or at least Austin isn't. The one who's the self-proclaimed artist and intellectual is sort of flipped in this moment and like frowning upon the way his brother survives even. And for me, I seeing this script performed by 2 Black actors, I felt empowered to be in this role because I did relate to it so much, seeing 2 Black actors perform it.
Well, I thought you did wonderful, and we do thank you for sharing it with us tonight. It was great. Thank you.
We've had a great time bringing these actors and performances together for this evening. A special thanks again to Laura Agadello, Travion Porche, Conan Roten, B.D. Barnes, and Anna Sosa. And thank you at home for joining us for the Breaking Through Actors Showcase. The showcase was made as part of the My Thoughts, My Voice, My Art initiative, created by TCC's Arts and Humanities Pathway, with streaming and production support by Matt Friedman, Frame 25 Productions.
We are Core Theatre Ensemble, and we hope you enjoyed all the performances tonight and continue to keep the arts alive. Good night.
Good night.